Hello, before we start today's episode, I wanted to let you know that I am doing a theatre show in Edinburgh on the 17th, 18th and 19th of December. The show is called Unquiet Objects and is 3 adaptations of classic M.R. James ghost stories in collaboration with Parrot Theatre Company. It is on at 7 p.m. in the Banshee Labyrinth on the 17th, 18th and 19th of December, and you can get your tickets at reallifeghoststoriespodcast.com.
This holiday, Verizon is helping you bundle up incredible gifts and savings. You'll get the latest phone with the new line on My Plan and a brand new smartwatch and tablet. No trade-in needed, even on our lowest price plan. That's 2 gifts for your family and 1 for you. Or 2 for you and 1 for someone else. Or 3 gifts for you and only you. Either way, you save big on 3 amazing gifts at Verizon. All on the best 5G network. Visit Verizon today. Rankings based on Root Metric Root Score report dated 1/8/2025. Your results may vary. Service plan required for watch and tablet. Additional terms apply.
If you're a smoker or vapor, ready to make a change, you really only need one good reason. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you'll discover many good reasons. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch brand. Plus, Zyn offers a robust rewards program. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction, but there's only one Zyn. Check out zyn.com/find to find Zyn at a store near you. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Hello and welcome to mini episode number 489 of Real Life Ghost Stories, and I have 4 spooky stories for you today, and the last story comes from the 2nd of October 2025, and story number 1 comes from V. I want to thank you for sharing my childhood ball lightning story a few months back. I mentioned that I'm a hopeful skeptic. I don't really sense things, I haven't seen any ghosts, well, until this week. I'm mostly the debunk it person who enjoys puzzling out presumed paranormal encounters. I'm a science person raised by science teachers who nevertheless had a bookshelf full of supernatural and paranormal books. Anyway, I had an experience at work that was very minor, very brief, but now lives in my poor, cracked, skeptical brain. I work for an agency that preserves natural and historic resources. I work at the front desk and also give tours. Our museum has 2 rooms. One is large and tall to house a log cabin inside. We have a temporary contact station set up inside due to some construction. The adjoining room is a small museum dedicated to a particular historic figure. I work with one co-worker who is a small young woman. I'm a big, wide, middle-aged woman myself, and these descriptions are relevant. It was the end of the day. I was at the desk, while my co-worker was at a different historic building on site. My closing job was securing the museum while she locked up the other buildings and outdoor bathrooms. There were a couple of late museum visitors I had to wait on before locking up. They left, I locked the doors, I closed out the cash register. Then I stood up to do a couple of other tasks. I heard the front door in another part of the building, presumably my co-worker returning from the historic buildings. Then I saw a shadow in the exhibits room in the museum. My first thought was that a visitor hadn't left because it just struck me that it was a man. It looked like a generic man shape, not fat me or tiny co-worker. But of course, it made more sense to be my co-worker. I turned to grab my water bottle and saw my co-worker outside closing the bathrooms. I hadn't heard the door again, and there's no way she could have instantly moved from point A to point B. So I figured it was a visitor and quickly went to the other room to make sure they leave. There was no one there. My co-worker soon entered and verified that she had not been in the museum. I told her I saw a shadow that I thought was her, so we swept the whole building looking for anyone else. We quickly found that it was empty. I figured it had to be my shadow. I went back to the cabin room and stood where I had been. No shadow was cast at all. Then I did my damnedest to reproduce the shadow. I stood everywhere in that museum. Not only could I not cast a man-shaped shadow, I couldn't cast any clear shadow, because the museum uses multiple diffuse lights. It causes all shadows to be very faint, fuzzy, and just kind of kaleidoscoped, if that makes sense. But the shadow I'd seen was sharp and dark, almost solid. It simply could not exist in that space. My poor skeptic brain broke. Then my coworker expressed her envy because apparently other employees had seen the former superintendent who died in the museum, but she hasn't yet. I don't know what to think. A shadow in a museum seen for a moment shouldn't be life-altering, but I'm filing it with the ball lightning. Unfortunately, I don't have a co-witness for this one. Other staff have seen a shadow, but not with me. And a shadow could be so many things. Since I couldn't reproduce it, I guess the only other explanation is an eye or a brain malfunction, which is credible. But I don't know. I try to be very focused at work, especially when closing. By the way, we also tour a large historic house where several people died, at least one tragically. It feels 100% not haunted to me, but somehow our 60-ish-year-old museum has frequent sightings of this shadow. Go figure. Stories about ball lightning just blow my mind, right? I know that isn't what this story is about, but that episode that I did with Tim where he was talking about, old stories of the devil bursting through roofs of churches and setting people on fire and whatever, and then the realisation that it's probably ball lightning honestly blows my mind. And I love when people write in and they're like, look, I'm a skeptic. I like to figure out the puzzle, I like to figure out how to debunk paranormal encounters. And most people don't do it in a mean way. You know what I mean? They're just like, I need to figure out how this happened. Somebody saw this flashing light. How did that happen? What are the possibilities? And it is an exciting mystery. And I love when those people write in because they're always like, this is living in my brain rent free. And I don't know what to do with it. And I do find it interesting that a lot of paranormal encounters involve shadow figures in whatever sense that is. And some of them seem to be like sentient, like those negative shadow figures that, seem to be peeping around doors and in corners and knocking around people's houses at night time. And some of them also seem to be like memories, like this one. I mean, maybe it is the superintendent who died in the museum and, never left, as it were. I also think it's really fascinating that it's such a common thing that when people see a shadow figure or they sense an entity or a presence, they just seem to know whether it's male or female or a child, that we sort of have that sense about us. And I do think that the age of a building doesn't matter when it comes to whether or not it's haunted. We've had so many stories where people are like, it's a new build house. I don't understand how there's ghosts in it. I don't think it matters. I really don't think it matters. But it is funny, you've got this large historic house, several people have died, including tragedies, and you're like, it doesn't even feel haunted at all, but somehow the museum has frequent sightings of this shadow. Listen, the paranormal is nothing if not unpredictable. And our second story today comes from Tara. When I was about 6 or 7 and was living in California, we lived in a 1-story house with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. There were so many things that happened in that house, it was a nightmare. For some backstory, the man that used to live there before us, who died, hated women. It was me, my mom, my brother, my sister, my stepbrother and my stepdad. Me and my sister shared a room, and one night I woke up to a sound in my closet. And when I opened it, it was this monster. It was blue, had spikes on his back, and was small, and had 2 legs in the front and a tail. I know that sounds like a cartoon, but it wasn't. I screamed and it screamed and ran off deeper into my closet. My mom came running into my room and I told her what had happened. She checked, but nothing was there. I was too scared to sleep in there after that, so I slept in the living room. And then I heard this older man's voice in my ear saying, "Leave this house." I checked around and no one was there. I heard no running away in case my brother was playing a prank, but I felt man's breath. Another time I went to the bathroom with no lights on. Why, I don't know, but there was some sort of creature in there with me. My mom even told me about how she also heard the man say into her ear to leave the house. But my brother, my stepdad and brother didn't have this happen to them. I'm pretty sure there was something demonic in that house, and it was so stressful on my parents because something happened to my mom and stepdad. They got into a fight like every parents do, but he said that he would shoot himself in front of my mom and her kids. But it wasn't him. It seemed off, like he was pissed, I'm not sure. One time my sister fell off our bed. It wasn't a bunk bed, so we shared a mattress, but when she fell off, it looked like something grabbed her and pulled her under the bed. I went and got her and she was crying and screaming. She was about 1, but for some reason my room seemed to be the most haunted, and it was only the girls that were affected. My mom even said that she experienced it, and called people to investigate, but they couldn't find anything from what she told me. I can't recall all the memories from that house, as it was very aggressive. A neighbour even told my mom about the man, and said something was off about it. But we lived there for about a year before we left, and I always sleep with a blanket over my ear, as it's the only way I feel safe. Another time I looked in my closet and there seemed to be some sort of monster. I screamed and it screamed and ran away. When I screamed, my mom came in and checked the closet and told me there was nothing there, but I was awake. I even had dreams where I would be under my bed and there would be dolls warning me. I can't remember exactly about what, but they would talk to me and I would get dragged out from under my bed in my dream and wake up. Another time I went to the bathroom and for some reason I didn't turn on the light, and the next thing I knew, something opened the door, and it didn't look human. It was very tall. I was about to scream, but it left, and I turned on the light and went back to bed. Ever since we left that house, I have felt much better, and nothing of the sort has really happened. I think that house had a really bad older spirit that had something against women and was trying to drive us out. Even while typing this, I can feel something around me and I just need to get it out. To me, personally, right, I always feel like seeing a monster or some sort of creature like a goblin or just seems so much scarier than seeing a ghost, right? And that's just my personal preference. You know, if I've got a choice of paranormal shit to see, I don't want to see anything that is monstrous or goblin-esque or running around on 2 legs that isn't human. You know what I mean? If I see a ghost, I can go, right, it was a ghost. Let's hope it was friendly, etc. If I see a goblin or a creature, I'm assuming that thing is not friendly. And it's really interesting, right, that you say that these things only happen to the women in the house, and obviously the man that used to live there that died there, you know, you'd heard from a neighbour that he really hated women. And I firmly believe that, like, deep-seated misogyny, racism, homophobia, all of those things, and people who espouse those views, you know, who are like, oh, I hate immigrants, or I hate whatever, I hate women, or women do this and women think they have problems, but they, you know, do this and this, whatever, right? I think all of that stuff comes from a place of deep self-loathing, right? And I think that deep self-loathing exudes from that person. It like seeps out of them like an infection and destroys everything around it. And I think that it like creates a negative energy. It creates negativity in more ways than one. And if you're in a place that is like susceptible to the paranormal, or if you're people who are, you know, aware of and susceptible to the paranormal or more in tune with the paranormal, that negativity can breed some pretty hideous stuff. And I firmly believe that. And I'm always really glad in these stories that you have people like your mom who you can talk to about these things and have conversations with, and she will listen to you. And I'm really glad for all your sakes that when you left that house that you were able to escape from that negativity and that you didn't experience anything again. But always keep that dialogue open with your mom, with your siblings, and have conversations about these things if you're experiencing them, because I do think it's really important. Today's episode is brought to you by Uncommon Goods. Uncommon Goods takes the stress out of gifting with thousands of unique, high-quality finds that you won't see anywhere else. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the US. Many are crafted by independent artists and small businesses, making every gift feel meaningful and truly one of a kind. Now, I've been looking for gifts for the mixologists in my life, and I saw this handmade tequila shot set, which is an absolutely beautiful set of 6 ceramic shot glasses. They are truly unique, they are truly one of a kind, and they are handmade in Texas. And remember, every time you purchase with Uncommon Goods, they give back $1 to a non-profit partner of your choice, and they have donated more than $3.1 million to date. So don't wait. Cross those names off your list before the rush. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/ghost stories. That's uncommongoods.com/ghost stories for 15% off. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary.
Tonight's meal, tilapia surprise with boiled cabbage. Begin cooking steps 1 through 50 now.
Are you kidding me? Making dinner shouldn't feel like doing a 1,000-piece puzzle. With Blue Apron's new one-pan assemble and bake meals, the hard part's already done. Pre-chopped ingredients, zero stress. Just assemble, bake, and enjoy. No complicated steps, no mountain of dishes. Try Assemble and Bake today. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. You know, one of the perks about having 4 kids that you know about is actually getting a direct line to the big man up north. And this year, he wants you to know the best gift that you can give someone is the gift of Mint Mobile's unlimited wireless for $15 a month. Now, you don't even need to wrap it. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Hi, this is Joe from Vanta. In today's digital world, compliance regulations are changing constantly, and earning customer trust has never mattered more. Vanta helps companies get compliant fast and stay secure with the most advanced AI, automation, and continuous monitoring out there. So whether you're a startup going for your first SOC 2 or ISO 27001, or a growing enterprise managing vendor risk, Vanta makes it quick, easy, and scalable. And I'm not just saying that because I work here. Get started at Vanta.com.
If you're a smoker or vapor, ready to make a change, you really only need one good reason. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you'll discover many good reasons. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch brand. Plus, Zyn offers a robust rewards program. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction, but there's only one Zyn. Check out zyn.com/find to find Zyn at a store near you. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
And our third story today comes from Davy. It happened back in 1995, when I was at my parents' caravan in Cumbria. I was aged 14 at the time, and I'm a twin. The caravan was only 1 bedroom, so my twin and I used to sleep on the seats that were in an L shape in the living room with our dog, a Yorkshire Terrier called Scrappy. This one night, my twin was staying at a friend's caravan, so it was just me and Scrappy. It got to around 2 a.m. when I woke to Scrappy barking and looking towards my parents' bedroom. So I looked over thinking one of my parents was in the kitchen. But all I saw was an outline of a person holding their hands up to their eyes as if they were holding binoculars. So I shot up and shouted for my parents. My mother came to the door and stood in the exact same place as the apparition. By this time I was beside myself. I told her what I had seen, and Mom said, "Don't be daft, son, get back to sleep." So me and Scrappy hid under the blanket, as you do. I heard a slight tapping on the front window above my head, but after a while I fell off to sleep. The next morning, once I was up and ready to go out for the day with my friends, I was the talk of the caravan park, as the caravans close to me heard my screams. I don't know why, but the idea of seeing somebody with their hands held up like binoculars is really scary. Like, that's honestly giving me the heebie-jeebies. Because I think it kind of gives like Haunting of Hill House vibes. You know, the type of ghosts they'd be seeing around the house who are all doing weird shit. Like, that freaks me out. Just as an aside, I had to stop the recording there because Hades was skulking around towards me and all I could see was a black shadow moving towards me out of the corner of my eye. And I jumped a mile, and I'm pretty sure he is trying to kill me. From a parental perspective though, your mum and dad must have absolutely shit themselves. Waking up suddenly to you screaming the place down, and the other caravans around about, they must have been like, oh well, that child is being murdered. But that is freaky as. This is one of those situations where I really hope that it was some sort of waking dream. Do you know what I mean? Where you woke up and you still had the remnants of whatever you were dreaming about in your brain. But very weird to be dreaming about somebody holding their hands up to their eyes like that. And your mum coming and standing in the exact spot. I can't bear it. And I really think that ghosts should not be allowed on holidays. If you're on holidays, you should not have to see a ghost. Okay, that should be a rule in the afterlife. If you are on holidays, you should not have to see a ghost, because your holidays are about relaxing, escaping from the world, not being assailed by paranormal entities. And our final story today comes from Kelly. You've read my stories a couple of times on the podcast, and I'm back with more about our helpful household ghost. Although a part of me thinks the ghost might be taking the things in the first place and then returning them, which is a little annoying. Just her way of saying hi, I guess. I wrote before about having a pendant and then a credit card disappear, then reappear days or weeks later with no reasonable explanation. Lately, it's been keys. About 5 months ago, my house keys went missing. I have a little key ring with my house key, my car key, and a little plastic green pig on it. One night, I was getting ready to go to a friend's house and the keys were nowhere. I spent a solid half an hour searching everywhere I could think of, digging through bags, looking through clutter. I finally found a spare key and was a half an hour late to my outing. When I got home later that night, I spent another 10 minutes or so poking around everywhere looking for them. The next morning was kind of a hard morning with my boys, 7 and 9 years old. My husband leaves the house super early for his long commute, and I have to get the boys to school before I start my workday. Some days are worse than others. I think maybe the ghost took pity on me after my hard morning, because I walked into the kitchen and there were the keys on the kitchen counter. They were sitting on a spot that I distinctly remembered standing in front of the night before, moving every object on the counter looking for the keys. I texted my husband and asked if he had found my keys, and he said no, but he would keep his eye out. I told him no need, they're back. A few months later, in the middle of August, I lost one of my 2 car keys. It was just gone. I had set it down after I dropped my kids off at school and it was nowhere. I tore apart all of my bags and purses and the kids' backpacks looking for them. Looked on all the surfaces, through piles of stuff hanging around the living room, gone. I even did a big clean out of my bedroom, the living room and the playroom a couple of weeks later, and I didn't come across the key. Fast forward to a month after losing the key. My office moved to a new space and I brought home a credenza that I had bought for my old office, but that wouldn't fit in the new one. We set it in the living room, with plans to make it our new TV stand eventually. 2 days later, I come home from dinner out and my husband asks me, "Where's your car key?" I dig it out of my purse and look up to see him holding the other lost key. "Where did you find it?" I asked. He pointed at the credenza, the one we had just moved into the house 2 days before. "It was sitting here when I got home tonight. I thought you found it." "No, I definitely didn't. I would have texted you because I would have been so excited." We figured one of our 2 boys found it somewhere and put it on the credenza. I asked them the next morning when they woke up and they both had no idea what I was talking about. So thanks, ghost, but please stop taking my things. I get that there must be like a serious attention-seeking element to being a ghost, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way, right? You're a ghost. Nobody's paying you any attention. You were alive once too, you know? It's like, hey, look, I am here. Mooching around your house, opening your cupboards and, you know, turning lights on and off and all that jazz. I don't know if a ghost counts as being helpful if they are the ones causing the problem in the first place. Because it is very attention-seeking behaviour, and I would argue praise-seeking behaviour, to be like, I know, I'll steal her car keys, and then when I bring them back and leave them in a really obvious place, then she will thank me for it. And I will get a little pat on the back and go around with my chest swollen in pride. Nobody will be able to see it, but I'll know that I did good. Now listen, I'm all for maintaining friendly relations with the other side and having a symbiotic relationship that is positive and meaningful, etc., etc. I am not here for the stealing of things to then return them and get the credit for it. No. And where do they go? When the ghost takes your things, when the ghost takes your key, where is it? Do they hide it somewhere else and then move it again? Is it in some sort of like paranormal room of requirement? Where do things go when they are moved by entities? I want to know. It always amuses me to think that if you were in the room at like the wrong time, you would just see the keys floating in the door and being put into the credenza. You know, I want to know what happens. I want to know where stuff goes. I often ask this question to people, right? Which is, when you die and you know, say heaven is real, right? You get to heaven, you meet St. Peter, and St. Peter goes, hey, you've got one question to ask before you go in the doors. Now, it can be like something pertaining to your life specifically. Like, I've got a number of questions that I would ask that just pertain to my life. But they also could be like existential questions, you know, big questions, life questions. I would be like, where does stuff go when ghosts move it? When they disappear things and bring them back again, where do they go in that space of time? That is what I want to know. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Thank you to V, Tara, Davy and Kelly for sending in your stories. Remember, the last story came from the 2nd of October 2025. And if you'd like to send in your story, you can do so by emailing it to reallifeghoststoriespodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out the website reallifeghoststoriespodcast.com. And if you are desperate for some extra content, you can subscribe to the Patreon. That is patreon.com/reallifeghoststories, where for $5 a month or for $2 a month, you can get access to heaps of extra content, as well as every single main and mini episode completely ad-free. And on that note, I shall see you next time.
This holiday, Verizon is helping you bundle up incredible gifts and savings. You'll get the latest phone with the new line on My Plan, and a brand new smartwatch and tablet. No trade-in needed, even on our lowest price plan. That's 2 gifts for your family and 1 for you. Or 2 for you and 1 for someone else. Or 3 gifts for you and only you. Either way, you save big on 3 amazing gifts at Verizon. All on the best 5G network. Visit Verizon today. Rankings based on Root Metric Root Score Report dated 1H2025. Your results may vary. Service plan required for watch and tablet. Additional terms apply.